Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of WFM Tipsy Thursdays. I am your show host, the Contact Center Whisperer, the CEO and founder of Solid Rock Consulting. And I am super excited this week to be talking about WFM impacts on cost savings. And I have with me none other than the amazing Josh Landon. Josh, thank you so much for hanging out with me this week. You could be anywhere in the world and you decided to come hang out with me. So thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. I look forward to it. Can't wait.
Absolutely. All right. So let's hop right in. But before we do, because, I love to hop right into the good stuff, right? But before we do, I think it's super important. Tell us a little bit more, Josh, where are you at right now? I know you're the WFM manager over at Omni Interactions, but tell me a little bit more about like when you first discovered workforce management and why you fell in love with workforce management, the discipline.
Yeah, so I mean, got to go back, 12, 13-ish years now that I've been in workforce and back to my first call center. I had just moved to Lakeland, Florida, looking for a job and saw a new call center was hiring. It was a new program they were looking for. Luckily I got in for, the first wave and stuff like that. Got started as an agent, picked up on it really quickly. And because it was a new site location as well, they were having some issues with their WFM team. I think it was about 6 months into it. They had a temporary team there from another site, and they were trying to get some people there internally to transfer, but it just
Yeah.
wasn't working. So they're like, well, we need someone here. They kind of put the word out on the floor. Anyone interested? I was like, I don't know what it is, but sure, I'll try it.
It
Now,
sounds so
at the
much like
time,
how I
yeah.
discovered workforce.
So at the time, I'm like, I don't know what workforce is. I've never used Excel. I've never done, anything that encompasses anything of workforce management before. And so they got me started and, working on building some spreadsheets for rosters and things like that to start with. And then got into, as time progressed, got into the numbers and the analytics and things like that. And I'm like, well, I'm a numbers guy anyway. So that just was like right up my wheelhouse. I enjoyed
Right.
it. And then, I had some great managers there, taught me how to do formulas and things like that. So got even more into it. And I was like, this is fun. Like for me, building out reports, forecasting, just digging into the numbers and finding just random things to investigate and look at, really fell in love with it. And I've been in workforce ever since.
That's so amazing. It sounds so much like my journey into workforce management, which I won't even bore you with that story because it's not boring, but it's a very long story. And I feel like I tell it all the time, and that's not the point of the show. So listen, let's hop right in. What's your background being in workforce management? And I think it's super cool that you're, a guest for this particular topic, talking about workforce management and its impacts around cost savings with the way you kind of got into workforce management in an organization that really didn't have a formalized department, really wasn't kind of knowing what they were doing. And so you were like, I don't know either. And you kind of got in there. Can you, in your own words, kind of tell me what the impact is from a workforce management perspective on organizations and their cost savings? Like, what have you seen that impact to be?
I've seen it can be. I mean, I've had some call centers as well as I've worked in casinos, so I have a more range than just your call center workforce. It can be pretty drastic. It really comes down to your forecasting and your assumptions that you use for attrition or shrinkage or absenteeism, those types of things. And you've got to be working with good data too. If you're missing data, then your forecast is shot, right? So as long as you've got good data and you have proper assumptions, that's where your biggest cost savings is going to be, because then you don't overhire or underhire, or don't overstaff or understaff and things like that, and you leave money on the table, or you're shipping more money out the door to pay for all these people that you don't need. That's your biggest thing right there. Is all comes down to your forecasting, your staffing plan that can sway your numbers so drastically one way or the other.
I love that. And I love, you didn't even do this intentionally, but I loved how you talked about kind of like your background in casinos as well, and not necessarily just traditional call center. Because when people think about workforce management all the time, we hear it referred to, or many times we hear it referred to in the context of call centers. And so organizations, if they don't have a call center, they feel like, oh, I don't have a need for workforce management. And that's not true, because workforce management, by sheer just nature of what it is about supply and demand, right? Like your business produces a demand, your customers produce a demand, which means your business, your employees supply that demand, whether it's with human capital or whether it's with technology, whatever the case is. Workforce management is about supply and demand, making sure you have the right people in the right place at the right time, the resources in the right place at the right time to serve your customer. Like you said, being in the casino, being in the call center, one of those biggest impacts to that workforce management has on organizations is that staffing, factor. And so much of that staffing factor is based on good data.
Yeah.
Right. Is this my peak season for the casino? Is this holidays? What is this? How many people do I need on the floor? And all the different things, all that stuff matters. And if you don't have good data, trash in equals trash out. Right. So that's really, really all right. So now that we know the impacts that WFM has on organizations from a cost saving perspective. One of the biggest myths or mistakes, rather, that you see people make when it comes to making an impact on cost savings with their WFM department or tool?
Yeah. So there, I think one of them is knowing or assuming that implementing a workforce system or a department in general is going to be a cost savings immediately. Well, it's not. It's going to take some time. You gotta plan for for all those issues. If you're just implementing it and you don't have a workforce team, you've got to go through that training period. You've got to go through that period of them figuring out, what data do I have available? What are we doing here type thing, figuring out the business. And if it's a system, you've got that time of working through all the kinks of learning the new system. Does it integrate with your servers or your database or whatever, wherever you're keeping your actual data from, and HR systems or whatever? If you want to integrate it there, does it integrate well? So there are some, I think, misconceptions that, well, my workforce team, they're going to save me money immediately. No, it's yes, in the long run, yes. But immediately there's going to be some cost.
I sometimes my guests, y'all be saying stuff and I be hating that I have to sit right here in frame of the camera, because I be really wanting to take off running around the room, because we don't prep the show, right? Like, I know when people are watching this back, they'll think like, oh, she preps them for the show. And I'm like, I don't. This is all just like off cuff. And so I just made a post not too long ago, Josh, and I was saying how one of the biggest mistakes or one of the biggest myths around workforce management tools is that people think all they have to do is set it up. Right. And that can't be, that's so far from the truth. You need more than just setup. You need to understand, like you said, like, what's the discipline around workforce management, and what am I looking to, the efficiencies I'm looking to gain? What processes do we have in place today? Where is my point of truth of the data today? Is that our HRS systems? Do we need to integrate there? What about my ACD, like my phone, my telephony? Where is my data coming from? And what is our process today? Because technology only scales a good or bad process. I said it scales a good or bad process. So if you have a bad process in place or no process in place at all, it's going to scale. It's going to highlight that inefficiency within your organization and your team. Hence, not allowing you to get the type of ROI that you thought you were going to get right away, or cost savings that you thought you were going to get right away. All right, so give me a tip or piece of advice that you would give to someone that's starting, building up a workforce management team, implementing a WFM software solution, and they're like, hey, I need some cost savings. What would be one of those tips or pieces of advice that you would give them? Hey, I need to start looking at this first.
So I guess the first thing I would do is trust your workforce management team, and know that we do this for our daily lives. Right? If you get a good team into there that has been in workforce for multiple years, whatever, they know what they're doing. Trust that, and when they tell you, "Hey, we're seeing." Schedule adherence or whatever, adherence is in the tank at 60%. We got to get more people on the phones when they're supposed to be on the phones, and have them quit taking long breaks or take long lunches, or team leads need to shorten their team meetings, or whatever the case is, right? Just when workforce gives those tips to the manager team or site director or whoever it is that's looking for it, take it seriously. We know what we're doing. We know what we need to do to get more butts and seats and things like that. And we use the real data. We're looking at actuals and trends and things like that. So it's not like we're just throwing a dart at the dartboard and saying, "Oh, you got too high here." No, we're using the actual data and analyzing it, getting it down to an easy view of where are we missing here. And then another things when we say look, we need to hire X amount of people because we need more to scale up or whatever, a lot of people aren't going to think that, well, we're handling the volume now. Why do we need more? Well, okay, you're going to have attrition. Training takes 4 weeks. You got attrition for those 4 weeks. You're going to lose X amount of people every week. By the time we get down the road in a month,
It's
you're
too
going to
late.
be, yeah, you're 20 people short, and I told you to hire 20 people a month ago.
A lot of times the RTA role is the most undervalued role. That's a whole nother soapbox for another day, because I love the RTA role. It's such a critical role in understanding what's happening, having your finger on the pulse real time of what's happening in
Yeah,
your business so that you can pivot. Right.
yep,
Like, so
they can be
to
smart.
undervalue that RTA role is insane to me.
You got to have your smart people in that RTA role that
Absolutely. That
can
can
give them
think
the
fast,
power
that
to
are
do.
agile, that can look at data, that can analyze and say, okay, this is what we need to do next. They can understand when it's the actual trend versus when it's just a spike.
Yeah,
Like,
and you
having
got to give
someone
them
in
the
that role
empowerment.
is critical.
Yeah, and the empowerment too. You've got to give them the empowerment
The ability to act.
to
Yes.
act fast and not
Yeah.
be like, well, let me ask my manager, let
Yeah.
me ask this person. No, no, just do it.
Yeah.
If you think it's going one way or the other, and you need to cancel team meetings or whatever,
Give
cancel
them
them.
the power. Yes, yes. I'm gonna have to bring you back for that topic right there. I already told you, like, I got to bring you back for like a couple of topics, because Chef's Kid. Where can the people find you if they are looking for you, Josh?
I guess just on LinkedIn, really. Josh Landon on LinkedIn with Omni Interactions.
Cool, cool. Well, thank you so much. I mean, it was so great.
No problem. Thank you.
Absolutely. How epic, huh? How epic. I told you. I told y'all Josh was going to come through here and be like, nugget, nugget, nugget. But thank y'all so much for tuning in this week to WFM Tipsy Thursday. Just so many nuggets that Josh dropped around the biggest myth, right? Of like, hey, if you want to get cost savings, it's not just turn on your tool. It's not just, oh, I'm going to get cost savings because I thought so. You got to, understand your data. You got to understand the discipline. You got to understand your tool. You got to trust your workforce management team. He just dropped so many gems that I'm not even going to attempt to recap all of them, but you already know what to do. If there's a topic that you want to cover, make sure you send me a DM, and I'm going to get to it. All right. Until next time, go be great and let's make impact. See you guys soon. Bye.